Certainly not.
This should be a long meeting.
Okay, we're going to start,
Gotta be out of here at 4:30.
even though we're missing one member. Good afternoon. This is the Town of Harpswell Budget Advisory Committee meeting on December 9th, 2024. And you all got an agenda in your email. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
And we will go, I keep forgetting. I'm going to introduce the people here at the table, starting with Dave,
Zamorowski?
and I'm Linda Hall.
March Webster Warren.
Mackin Pulsifer?
Jane Meisenbach.
Okay, thank you, and
Town Administrator Christy Ayana.
Deputy Town Administrator Terry Gaudette.
Jane Covey, Select Board Liaison.
thank you. Moving on to item 3 on our agenda, we're going to hear from 3 fire departments here in town. So, at the top of our list is Cundy's Harbor. Do you want to go first? It's sort of alphabetical. No, it's not alphabetical order.
It's numeric.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. I do want to sort of outline that I would rather spend the evening on Cundy's Harbor Road in a blizzard, cutting trees off the road than sit through budget meeting after budget meeting, just to give you some appreciation of how difficulty I'm sure your job really is. We've asked for a small increase from last year to $82,000 this year. Our financial situation is a little bit problematic at the moment. If I go back a number of years, what you'll find is that we kind of bump around zero a little bit, 20K plus, 20K minus, mostly about whether we're any good at getting the capital projects we say we're going to get done. We have a lot of ambition, and then they all take some manpower on our side, so we don't get them done. So usually what happens is we underspend our capital plan, and then we have a small surplus for the year. We have a lot of good stuff going on this year, and this is the catch-22 between a financial meeting and a real-life meeting. We're fairly behind on ambulance billing, which, sorry to say, is great news, because it's a lot less transports. And we have several good things that happened. I don't know if everyone is aware, we were donated a fireboat this year, and first-year fit-out costs were, we had no experience, so first-year fit-out costs were a little bit above where we expected. And then we had a huge increase in vehicle maintenance, all good. Trucks are going to continue to last us a long time, and they cost a lot, and you can't get them anyway. And we had a few unexpected expenses in station water system and a few other things. So at this point in the year, I'd say we're probably going to end up this year with a negative $30,000 or $40,000, which is a little bit worse than we budgeted and probably than we expected, but all for good reasons. Our fundraising year, we found in historical terms that we do much better sending out our donation request letter in December, because people decide at year end pretty much what they're going to do. So I can't really give you a report on that, because I won't know until sort of, it happens very quickly. People either respond or they don't. So we'll know in a month or two what the donation side of the equation is. If we look around at next year, the plan that we gave you has a pretty big loss. We'll probably adjust our capital plan to get it down in the range that we feel fairly comfortable with, which is sort of that plus or minus 20K floor. That's in the range where it's tolerable for us on a long-term basis. I don't know if anyone, we do prepare, I'll give you a little caution, I can see some people looking at it. we do prepare for the town this breakout of expenses slightly differently, but I would just urge a little bit caution about how much we rely on it, is that we don't do accrual accounting for interim financial results. So the numbers at the bottom line are not really representative, because we haven't accrued positives, which is we among the departments haven't billed the town for what they owe us. And on the other side, we have some expenses that hit at the end of the year. We pay our compensation plan to employees in November and December. We don't accrue for it. So in reality, the number that you have in through 9 months is probably under represented. I can probably tell you what that is if you wanted, but.
Didn't you just say it was around 30 or 40K?
No, I mean, in the 9-month, the 9-month interim number is not based on an accrual accounting. It's based on cash accounting.
Right.
So I guess I'll mention one other thing, because we talked about it last year. We had this big project for radios. Town was replacement radios. The good news on that is that Cumberland County and the state gave us a substantial amount of help. So we're in the middle of completing that radio upgrade project without a very big expense side, which is really good news. And I think that's the state of the universe financially.
Akin, go ahead.
John, when do you expect to receive the billing in the ambulances? Or the,
To know what it is?
well, to know what it is, and when do you expect to receive it?
Oh, we get it monthly.
I see.
Yeah, so it just, the run rate is less than it's been in the past. So I try to express my difficulty about talking about this, which is, you know, it's good that it's less. Right? So we're down about $10,000 through 9 months. November wasn't too bad, so I think we'll probably end the year down $5,000 to $7,000. But it's not an item that we can control in any way. And so it really just becomes a budget to actual discussion. In our universe, right, I mean, some of the monies are fairly certain, but two big numbers, so ambulance billing and the donations, are variable. We basically adjust our capital, in real life, we adjust our capital plan, which is the discretionary part of the funds that we have, to get to the bottom line that's acceptable to the board.
Good, thank you.
And with the December, the fundraising you
Yep.
just started, do you have an idea of how that's going to come out?
I have a pretty good idea, because it oddly doesn't vary a whole lot year to year. So the amount we have in the 25 plan that we gave you is probably very close. I mean, the year before, we had an unusual bequest of a person who left us $30,000 in her will. So if you looked at the prior year, you'll see $72,000, whatever the number is. So we don't know when that happens.
Right.
Doesn't happen very often, and we certainly don't count on it in the expenditure plan for the budget.
How is the recruiting volunteers?
Well, you know, it's fairly good news at the moment on the ambulance front. We have we have 2 new EMTs?
There's now, instead of 1, there's 4.
There's, 2 or 3 new EMTs. We have 1 more in the cycle. We've added what will be, in the end, 4 new drivers. So the ambulance side of the situation is improving. Firefighters continue to be a difficult situation. And the FRAP program graduated 1 person for us. Is that the right number? 1 or 2? 2.
One's active.
Yeah. So one is helping, and 1 completed all the training and hasn't yet. We'll hope to convince them maybe in the future. But we struggle we struggle with having enough qualified firefighters. It's a big project to get to be one and get enough experience to be useful and not be too old to do it.
Never too old to join the fire department.
Okay.
No ceiling,
Yeah. Well,
literally.
no.
I assume you want people who can stand and walk.
Yeah.
Any-
Yeah.
Any more questions for Jonathan? Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For your consideration.
okay, thank you. And OBIFD, Fire Department. That was redundant.
Wearing the wrong shirt. Treasurer isn't able to be here, so
Okay.
I'll do my best, and Ted can fill in where. All right, so this year, compared to the notes you have there, our ambulance billing is now at roughly 74,000 for the year. I'm not going to expect much more after that, but keep in mind that out of the 74,000, I think we pay 7% to the billing company. And so our bottom number is whatever comes out after that. So in the initial forecast, we were thinking just under 71,000 for billing income next year is what we're shooting for at Oars Island. I believe that we were increasing our ask of the town 3%, or roughly 3%, like 3.1 as an adjustment. And right now, we're projecting a $46-ish thousand deficit at the end of '25. It's hard to tell you what it's going to be the end of this year because you see the first 9 months, but just like as Jonathan explained, the last quarter of the year is always the most expensive quarter of the year. Oars Island, just like Cundy's Harbor, that's when we pay out the comp plan, which is around $36,000. Most of our equipment maintenance, truck service, pump service, all that stuff all happens the last quarter of the year. So I don't know that we're going to have spent all the budget by the end of the year. Matter of fact, I'm pretty confident we won't have spent all of '24's budget by the end of the year, but usually that just means that work gets rolled over into the next year. So, in our capital, we're projecting around $56,000 in expenditures next year. And, you know, that tends to be the top end of it because, again, some of those projects take months and months and months to come to fruition. So it's not that they don't happen. It's that sometimes they get delayed. You know, we've had projects that we budgeted for 1 year. Sometimes it takes 2 years, maybe longer to get done. But we have to put it in the budget somewhere and carry it over. So, Oars Island's got 1 new EMT in this year, and we've got 2 new firefighters. The cadre's fairly healthy, although this time of year it's getting more tight because we have people that leave for the winter. You know, I guess around Christmas week, there's going to be people gone too. So, you know, take it easy on the eggnog, and we'll be good.
And the Yuletide log and the fire. So,
Well, we made it past Thanksgiving, so the frozen turkey and the roaster is the worst one, in the fryer is the worst one. So we made it past that. So, I've seen that demonstrated, not intentionally. It's not great.
To what extent do the different fire companies share in things like billing, contracts, insurance, and accounting? Do you guys collaborate on that to take advantage of what might be scale opportunities?
Absolutely. So in the insurance-wise, there's a fourth corporation, Harpswell Fire and Rescue, Inc., and we buy a combined insurance plan that covers vehicles, facilities, liability insurance, things of that nature. The only thing we don't pay for ourselves, the town we're under the town's workman's comp insurance, so we don't pay for that directly. Other things, like we just finished consolidation of the online software we use to manage our training. We're doing it all separately, and as of last week, we've now consolidated that. It hasn't reduced the cost to each individual department, but it's reduced prospectively going to reduce the amount of administration it requires to operate it. There's a lot of volunteer hours involved in making that happen. We have equipment that's shared equipment. One department actually owns it, but we'll put a grant request in on behalf of all three, like the machine we use to fit test people to wear an SCBA mask. So we have a number of projects where it makes sense. We definitely take advantage of it. So, and training, we do a lot of training together. So.
So, small matter, but it's interesting that the insurance rates for each department are slightly different.
That's correct.
Master policy, want to divide them by 3.
Because we have different number of trucks and different trucks, so,
And
like,
buildings.
yeah, so, for instance, Orr's Island has 4 different buildings they have to insure. Cundius Harbor has one, Harpswell has one. Cundius Harbor has 5 fire trucks and an ambulance. Cundius Harbor has 4 fire trucks, so all that stuff makes a difference. Those are really the highlights of the differences in the insurance policy.
Are the,
Although the president of the insurance corporation is, and the treasurer is right here of that corporation as well.
do you guys track across departments the utilization rate of your major pieces of equipment? And are they vastly different from department to department over time?
So could we get the numbers? We may be able to get the numbers insofar as how many hours they're on the road on a call, but we're not tracking, like when a truck goes out for somebody just to get some experience behind the wheel, we're not precisely tracking the number of hours that truck's on the road for that, or every spring when there's a fire academy going on, we'll send a fire engine down to Yarmouth, down to the training academy. We're not tracking that stuff. I just ran the numbers for the number of volunteer hours, and I believe Cundius Harbor, the number of volunteer hours we could track in training, responding to calls, and other activities. The volunteers donated over 2,300 hours this last year alone, between November 1st and Halloween. And Orr's Island was very close, so around 2,400 hours of volunteer hours. That's just the responders. That's not the non-responder volunteers. Like Orr's Island has an entire cadre that does things like their community events and their board of directors. We're not tracking that, but I can tell you that if anything, it underestimates it, because there's lots of stuff that we do all the time that just simply doesn't get recorded. But I can tell you there's thousands of hours every year that these volunteers.
And is your CapEx, I guess I would include trucks in this, is it related primarily to hours of use or time? And to what extent
So
is it related to either of those?
typically, we'll run a truck until it needs to be replaced. So for instance, the last 2 vehicles that were replaced on this side of town were both the ambulances, and we didn't even replace the entire vehicle. We re-chassied the vehicle that we had, so we didn't spend any unnecessary money. And the reason we did that is because it had the Ford 6.0 diesel engine, which is notorious for blowing up. And if they blow up, your ambulance is out of service for, even if you can get an engine, you're going to be out of service for months. To get a new ambulance, you're talking anywhere around 18 months or longer to get a new ambulance right now. So we can't afford to have one of those critical pieces of equipment down. Most of our fire trucks go 20 years plus. The last truck that Orr's Island replaced their engine was a 1991, and it was just replaced last year. So, got away with it because they have 2 engines to do, but there's a lot of downtime, and so we're swapping trucks back and forth because of the age of those 2 trucks. But when it gets to the point where if we start reducing the number of fire trucks in town, then we're not going to be able to go that length of time, because you've got to maintain the reliability. I mean, one of the things I hear people talk about with fire trucks all the time is, when you're wondering why you're paying $500,000 for a fire engine for a truck that's only 20 years old, and you ask the person, how old's the pickup truck you're driving, your daily driver, and most of them aren't 20 years old. But we're responding 911 with these trucks, so. And most of our trucks last more than 20 years. We try to take really good care of them.
Malcolm?
Could I ask a general question, maybe, and I'm not sure who it's directed, but what are these sheets telling us?
Yeah, that's black and white.
The mileage.
The odometer shots?
Yes.
Is that from Orr's Island?
Yes.
No, that was from Cundi's.
Oh.
So, is it okay if I speak from back
I don't know if you'll get picked up on the,
I'm going to step back. You can call me back if you like.
I think you have to put some context in vehicle situation, so, because you're going to come up with a budget line item on it fairly shortly. The town, we ran out of the ability to fundraise for fire trucks and ambulances when the prices got really silly. So the current situation is, for vehicles, is the town purchases them and then leases them to the departments. And the town, there's an ongoing vehicle plan, right?
We're
It
gonna
basically,
get to, yeah.
yeah, which you'll get to. Anyway, vehicle plan comes to your age question, which is we have some standard ages on what we expect out of a truck, 10 years for an ambulance, 30 years for a fire truck, blah, blah, blah. So you can look at the future and see what the rough expenditure coming is, and the way we account for that in, or as a town, I say, include me in the we, because we're the recipients of it, the generosity. But anyway, you know, is we have a fund, and annually we put in the fund, and then we expend it when we spend the trucks. So the town asks for the mileage numbers on the vehicles that we lease from them,
Simple.
and they ended up in your book.
I copied the whole packet.
Now, it's somewhat related to this on the vehicle side. We do not wear trucks out. We corrode trucks. So just the nature of the kind of location we are and the service volumes that we have. And then also to your point, we provide, you can read in the town report, and it gets updated every year. You can look at the relative volumes of calls between the departments to see who's doing what kind of calls. Varies a little bit by department.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question for, I guess it's gonna be Ben, or I don't know if it'd be Ted, but the fund balance question that Harpswell asks, it's on page, I guess, what page is that? Two. Oars Island is reporting at the end of 2023 a fund balance of $83,997, but I don't think this is including all of your funds, like your investment
Page 2 you're looking
funds.
at?
Question 4.
Question 4.
No, that's not, yeah, that's not including all the funds. They have some interest bearing income.
But you have like an investment fund, so we
Yes,
don't have
correct,
any
that's what I'm saying.
information, at least in this section of your submittal about
Yeah, so
what kind of
I
assets.
think that reflects their cash accounts. I don't think that reflects their investment account.
And I think that's a question for the Budget Committee about whether or not that information is something you'd like to have. I noticed in the Harpswell Neck submission, we have information about their investment accounts and the magnitude of them, so.
Right, and as I recall, last year we had a discussion about the fund balance at OBI. You had a nice bequest from,
Yes, Pat Robinson gave the department a substantial nest egg.
right?
Yeah.
And so
And so that
it's
it-
in your
Yeah.
fund balance.
Well, yeah, it's
It
just,
was
I
fairly
don't know if
large
it gives
amount.
this
So-
committee a full picture
Yeah, so
of-
Right.
so she's absolutely, Christie's absolutely correct. Number 4 does not include the investment accounts.
Yep.
The investment accounts, they draw the interest, or they can draw against the interest to make up the deficit spending. But in general, they do not spend the money out of the interest account. They use the interest to, I mean, for instance, I think we're projecting a deficit of 46,100 in what you have. Actually, the most current budget that's going for approval next month is going to be actually a deficit of almost $55,000. So they're going to have to make that up through, I don't know, if more people call the ambulance, or they'll have to make it up out of the interest bearing out of that account. So,
Well, that was my next question. Would you be pulling from your fund balance to help take care of that?
that they're going to have to either pull from the cash accounts, or if that's not enough, then they can pull from the interest that comes from the investment accounts.
But you cannot invade the principal.
That was the decision the board made. That's my understanding, is the decision the board made last year when they first received those funds. Now, you know, that's an in-house policy about they're going to handle it. I mean,
Do you know what the principal is?
I don't know that.
Does the president?
The Robinson Fund,
Yeah,
the investment fund?
yeah.
I think it's around
Could you answer?
Sorry, I don't know that number.
Yeah. Ted Merriman, OBI Board President. I don't know the exact number of the principal, but I believe it's, I hate to say the number because I can't verify it, but I think it's around 600,000. And that's gone down with past stock market changes, and just now it's come back up to be just slightly above where we invested in. And we've been talking about, do we pull that out and put it into CDs? We've done a lot of investment with taking our money out of cash accounts and putting them into CDs. That's where you'll see the $15,000 in interest. So we're trying to identify other areas of higher interest rate gains. But to answer your question specifically, the principal in that, what we refer to as the Kerry Robinson account should be around 600,000.
So it's restricted by the board.
It is.
Great.
I recall a much higher number last year. And I did not bring that information with me, but it's neither
Yeah,
here nor there.
I don't think it's much higher. In fact, I think I was going, but we can get that information to you.
Okay, because we had quite a discussion about it last year.
Okay.
Okay, so do you use a investment broker for this?
We do. It's Camden National. And we meet with him quarterly to go over the results and see if we can change anything. And he just introduced some different buffer options for us. I'm not a financial, I don't have a financial background, but he did bring up some really good buffer options that we can take advantage of, which will help protect, but still drive investment monies out of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
I have sort of a general question for all of you, because it's come up here about the town office and so forth. Are you doing anything with solar power or taking advantage of that? Any of these solar farms to help reduce your electric bills? No. 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 Okay. I just got my electric bill, made me think about it. Jonathan, did you want to?
Reluctant to get up to the mic for this.
Please come up to the mic, Jonathan.
It's got a bad knee, that's why.
Huh?
It's got a bad knee.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's fine.
Needs to be fixed.
I'm getting encouragement on sooner than later on my knee fix. From a happy
You'll get
knee
it.
replacement person.
Right. Yeah.
I would, for Cundy's Harbor, we have looked at the issue several times, including changing to heat pumps and several other items. Our station is a bit unique compared to potentially OBI or others. We basically don't have people in it. So the average temperature we maintain it at is quite low. So all of the payback numbers that make great sense work well perhaps at your 65, 68, whatever your number is. At home, they don't really do so well when you're shooting for 50.
You're doing what you can the other way. Yeah.
So we've investigated it, especially heat pumps. We've investigated it several times, and payback period is just too long for us at the moment. We've taken some steps in the building to work on the building. Last year, we invested in a bunch more insulation, which did have a good payback. It's, the building's kind of a older building, and the R values you can get at it are a little bit limited by when it was built.
Thank you.
Great.
Harpswell Neck.
Hi, I'm David Luce. I'm treasurer of Harpswell Neck, and I will answer your questions in regarding the daily budget, and Chief Mercia will take care of the capital expenses. We plan to ask for the same amount we had last year. We have done very well with our donations and our ambulance billings. And for next year, we did not increase them because I think we've kind of gotten up about as high as we're going to go because our billing income is going to be roughly 85,000. And our donations are at 85,000, and that's increased from a lot 4 or 5 years ago, and I think we've really reached the maximum there for a while. As far as our expenses, we're very, very careful with what we've done, and David and I and the rescue chief, we sit down and we went over some areas this year, but, for example, it was because of a stretcher thing that we spent extra money either for a part or a billing, not mortgaging it, but you know what I mean. But we don't need it next year, so this is how we've looked at it. And we feel with this 67,500 that we have at the present, we've lived with it, and it'll cover our expenses for the daily use and what David will talk about on capital expenditures.
Could I ask
Yes,
a
absolutely.
question? Are the donations you're getting, are they from many people, relatively small amounts, or do you have a few very big?
Oh, no, we're very, very fortunate. The average donation is under $200.
Right.
You know, yes, is there usually one big one, maybe $3,000, $4,000, $5,000? Yes, but most of them, we've studied it and averaged them out, and they're slightly under $200.
Because in my experience, organizations that have many, many small donations are healthier than having a few big ones.
And a lot of the ones that are, let's say, $2,000, they've been giving us $2,000 for 10, 12, 15 years. You're going to hate it when they pass away, but you know.
Inflation is eating away.
No, we have a lot of small ones. The one thing that we've seen that was good is the ones that used to be $50, $25 have grown to pretty much 100. We have very few that are under $100 now.
Thank you, David.
Oh.
I said thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. David?
Hi, Dave Mercer, your fire chief. We've had some expenses this year, mostly in vehicle maintenance. I have a preventive maintenance program for my vehicles. I generally spend in the order of $15,000 a year on preventive maintenance. My trucks are aging. This year, I'm finding I'm having to replace tires. 2 front tires on 2 vehicles that's $2,000. NFPA says that if your tires are older than 10 years, you're supposed to replace them regardless of wear. So I've got 5 vehicles, 6 counting utility. I've replaced all the tires on the utility truck this year for $1,000. And I'm looking at replacing additional tires on that equipment in the next year or 2. So I'm looking at somewhere in the vicinity of $10,000 just to upgrade tires. I've had some mechanical issues, again, age-related. My engine requires 4 batteries, and you change when one goes, you replace 4. I've had to replace batteries on 4 trucks this year. You're looking at $800 to $1,000 to replace batteries. So I'm experiencing some mechanical maintenance issues that are expected. The engine is 18 years old. The tank truck is 20 years old. But the preventive maintenance program has prevented me from having to spend a lot of money on any breakdowns. The trucks are reliable, they're safe, And we're doing these repairs as needed at the annual service. I just recently ordered 4 brand-new overhead doors for the station. We're going to be replacing the overhead doors. Those have been on there, well, I've been chief 18 years, and they've been on there at least that long. Those that we haven't backed through.
Oops.
So portions of the door are 18 years old. Other portions are relatively new. But in an effort to make them all uniform, I've ordered 4 brand-new doors. We've gone to a door that's twice as thick as the door we currently have in an effort to reduce our heating costs. I've added more windows to have more natural light in the bays, reduce the need for overhead lighting. So we are continually taking steps to improve the station as well. I've had some roof maintenance that's required. I've replaced every roof on this station with the exception of 1/2 of the apparatus bay. That's the oldest section. I spend $1,200 every 2 years, and I have the G&E Roofing out of Augusta. They come in and do maintenance on my roofs. Flat rubber roofs will last, but you must maintain them. You must have somebody come in, check the seams, and if the seams are lifting, you have to have them re-glued. But by doing so, I've extended the life of those considerably. So one of the other items that's beginning to be expensive for us, I currently have 20 air bottles for my SCBA's. They're a composite bottle made, which has a 15-year lifespan. My bottles are coming up on their age. Those bottles now are $1,300 a piece. I'm currently replacing 2 this year. I replaced 2 last year, and I'm trying to rotate them through, but obviously to replace all 20 at $1,300 a piece is a considerable expense. As the other departments have, we had a radio upgrade this year. We will, again, very fortunate as the other departments to have grants from dispatch, which provided a lot of radios to us, portables and mobiles. It didn't provide us with the full number of radios that we require, so that out of our capital funds, we ended up spending a little over $13,000 in order to acquire the radios that we needed, the number of portables, for example. So we did have expenditures in the radio part to bring us up to be in line with all others. We applied for an EMS grant of $15,000, and we received that grant. And we used that grant to offset that $13,000 in the radio. So we do seek out grant funding where it's available to reduce the amount of money we're requesting from you folks.
I know you got 1 new ambulance driver, but how's your volunteer situation going?
On the fire side, I continue to shrink. I'm now down to 7. On a good day, I'm lucky to have 3 people show up. The rescue side is very robust. Our rescue chief, Harvey Powell, has got an excellent recruiting program. They have over 20 drivers and 4 EMTs, and they do a great job of recruiting. Fortunately, the age group that we have driving for us are able to do that, whereas that same age group is not appropriate to fight fire.
Right.
A good member of our department is well over 65. But we can still drive at night, so we're doing okay.
Right. Mackin?
Could I ask sort of a general question? what thinking do you have on increasing the ranks of firefighters? 'Cause that seems to be the common problem across each.
Well, you're gonna hear.
Is it simply more paid firefighters?
Okay.
There really isn't another solution.
Mac, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, I think. Is that what you were going to say, Christie?
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, there's a proposal to add additional coverage now on Saturday and Sundays, and there's conversation at the Fire and Rescue Planning Committee level about what the future looks like. So we talk about it a lot.
Good.
In Harpswell Neck, the situation is just the demographics. As everyone is aware of, we're the oldest community in the state per capita. And when you look at even like the 2020 census, if you look at the number of people, age group 20 to 40, and in that census, there was 381 people in that group. So half of them are female. So you start to begin to say, this is the pool for the entire town that you're trying to draw from. Trying to draw from 150 people. Well, that doesn't mean that 150 people is willing and able to participate. It's demographics is what's killing us. Thank you.
Thanks for that.
Dave,
Thank you.
did the corrosion repair to your ambulance, since it ended up being a little more than what was estimated, did it affect your opinion on how it will extend its life? Did they find more issues inside, or did it seem to do what you were expecting it to do?
No, I think it absolutely did. The place did an excellent job on it, and I think it absolutely did what we expected it to do, and we haven't experienced any issues as a result of that. So extending that ambulance, as I've said, I hope to extend the ambulance an additional 5 years beyond its normal replacement date. I have no reason to believe that won't happen. We're going to get that return on that investment.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to account 9200, the emergency vehicles account. And talk about,
No, Jonathan takes it.
Jonathan's taking it?
You're the lead spokesperson.
I mean, I can say that we're appropriating.
Okay, I think I gave the basics of this a little bit earlier, but I'll just refresh everybody.
100.
We have a vehicle replacement plan,
Yep.
and we add to the funds. And right now, the next two vehicles are the squad truck in Cundy's Harbor, which is, this would be out of the current fund balance. And we're working on getting firm proposals on that. And utility truck, do I call it utility truck, brush truck, whatever, at OBI, those are the next two things on the list. The amounts that the town has put in have varied a little bit from year to year, but in general, the fund balances have not been waiting for us, I guess, I can say it. It takes us an unbelievably long amount of time because these are custom vehicles, and we work really hard to get good specs and get trucks that we really like and love, and so it takes longer than you think to put a specification together, get some bids, and delivery takes forever. So I don't know if that answers anything on that account. I think David outlined the positive change. That current ambulance configuration we have mechanically is going to last a long time. So to the extent that we can fight the corrosion problems proactively, we'll get more life out of them than we currently plan, which is currently they're in the vehicle plan on 10-year life cycles.
John, how far out do you look into the future to be plotting basically a capital budget?
This is
5 years.
realistically 5 years.
29,
Yeah, realistically. I mean, it's not that we couldn't. I mean, if Terry said I wanted a 10-year or a 15-year look, I mean, we know the inventory of trucks that we have. We know how old they are, we know what our best guess is about the replacement things. So we could do the whole replacement plan, as a Excel spreadsheet fairly easily. The difficulty in this, and the part that is extraordinary, a little bit like building costs or whatever, the price of fire trucks is just basically gone nuts. So you're kind of balancing the game about how much do you know what costs and when do you need it. And to have a realistic planning number, you need to be in the 2 to 3 year horizon where a vendor could tell you a real number for
Reasonable, yeah.
what, based on what you could buy something at, right? After that, you just have to guess, or
No surprise.
educated guess. But it took quite a huge jump. And, but in any case, the current account right now is in good shape for what we have in the near-term situation after the funding for 2025.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No,
Is that the information that we're seeing 2 pages back?
it
from the
is,
front
it is.
page?
It's not labeled, Terry.
Yeah.
Goes to
Took me a few minutes to
2029.
figure
I
out
did-
what it
I
was.
did see somewhere in the text, there was a reference to a need in 2030 for another $450,000
For the
truck.
ambulance.
Yeah.
I don't think it would hurt to extend it, and these numbers are sufficiently large that seems like we should, if we can't anticipate it, it should be available to think about.
As a financial exercise, Terry just has to say how many years you want.
Yep.
And we as the fire department have a pretty good chance of being able to give you the cash flows that you want.
Decent numbers, or reasonable numbers
Right.
for
I mean, it's
5
not-
years.
There are no surprises in this. We know the age of the rolling
Sure.
stock that we have. We know roughly what they cost.
And then the sheet can be revised with inflation and expectations each year, things of that sort.
And for the financial people, I guess at the town office, are we happy that that balance dips down as low as it does in '26, and again, it's headed down in '29 in anticipation of a 2030 need of $450,000 that's not on there?
I mean, as the year comes up, that's just estimating out what the vehicle committee has projected. But as you heard from Dave Mercier, will his ambulance be needed for replacement in 2029? We're not certain, but we also will often use some unassigned fund balance to go towards a capital road project or an emergency vehicle. So this is laying it out now, but it can certainly be subject to change.
Okay. Thank you.
Because with everything else, it's a claim on these balances.
Yep.
It's fine.
Marge, did you have a question?
No,
Okay.
I'm good.
I'm just curious, as an aside, you guys have like pressure washing bays where you can bring stuff in the winter and really get at things once you've been out in the slush and no?
You hose them down after
Yeah.
every
I was
use,
going to say, I
right?
see you out there all the time
Yeah,
hosing
Right, I
them
was gonna
down.
say, I
Yeah, we
see them
do.
down out there.
We come back, right, we come back from a call like the accident yesterday on the mountain road, the road's a mess.
Yeah.
We hose the whole truck down, including the underside, but we're back at the station.
Okay, yeah, that was my question. So, yeah,
but
you
we don't
guys,
have an inside facility.
yeah, okay.
Do whatever we need.
Can't drive down to Pleasant Street and pull it into that pressure washing bay, huh? Yeah, it wouldn't matter. You gotta come back, right?
There we go, now we know what we need here in town. Thank you, guys. We're going to move on to the Department of Safety, account 3230. Give us a second to flip around in our books.
Good afternoon. Guys all set?
Yes.
Okay, so the thing you probably noticed is we do have an increase on the wages this year. what we discussed earlier, Mr. Pulsberg brought up increasing staff. So currently, we run 2 firefighters 5 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. The Fire Rescue Committee, along with the fire chiefs, has decided that that coverage should be extended through the weekend. So that'll give us 2 firefighters Saturday and Sunday, so the same staff will carry through the whole week. So our projected cost for that, raw wages is $62,400. Due to the increased demand on the staff for call-outs, for sick leave or whatever, or training or whatever, we did opt to put an overtime budget onto that of $6,000. So that'll pretty much give 1 to 2 shifts per month, you know, if we have call-outs to be able to cover that. Going down the line, the total cost of that is projected to be $109,000. But what we're looking at now to fill that gap of coverage, we want to fill my old position of a regular part-time firefighter. So that would be a half-benefited position. So that brings up the benefit costs on that. The difference in that is going to be the inside person that we have interested in that position at this time works full-time at another fire department and does take their insurance. So this would probably be an insurance buyback, which would save us $12,000 a year. Any questions on the extra coverage?
It is what it is.
Where will you be?
The schedule you come up with is Harpswell Neck will be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and OBI will be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yep.
You just need more younger people.
Yeah, and that's the problem, is finding people. So what we're projecting with this is to fill my old open position of the regular part-time firefighter, and we're probably gonna have to hire another per diem. So that branches off into some of the budget increases. We had a little more than double on protective equipment on our budget.
Right.
That'll be able to outfit any new personnel we have for that position. Plus, I currently have 1 per diem firefighter that uses gear from another town. We haven't been able to afford to buy her turnout gear yet. So I plan to do that in the new budget. That'll be an increase. The other increase for any new positions, I added $1,200 for a safety and health account. Anyone that we hire is required to go through a physical exam, and we usually do that through occupational health in West Bath. The other thing that we haven't been super compliant on in the past that I want to fix is some firefighters, depending on their age, have to have physicals now. Depending on, 40 and over, you have to have a physical every year. Down to that, it's every 2 years. Before that, it's every 5 years. So the older people like myself need to have a physical every year.
No comment.
He has seen nothing yet.
So to offset some of those costs, the firefighter retention and recruitment program that we asked you guys for last year, the FRAP program, has been very successful. We was able to get 2 firefighter 1 and 2 through the academy in the spring. There's currently 3 people from that program enrolled in an EMT class. So that program's greatly going to benefit the volunteer departments. The number that we came up with last year was 6,000, and we haven't spent anywhere near that. We do plan on some new expenditures in this year for some different training and equipment, but I did reduce that by $2,000. So that's been cut back. So I think that's the only increases, is the safety and health is new, the protective clothing, and then the FRAP program was reduced. There's a couple other small reductions of $500 I had here and there that I felt we could put somewhere else.
Marge.
I think my question is, if you hire John off the street, train him, what does it cost to hire somebody ready for,
That
total ready?
That's a huge difference. So if we hire someone, we're very fortunate to have a couple of our per diem staff that work full-time in another department. So their training and all that stuff was covered. To train someone to be a firefighter two is a 6-month class that costs around $2,000 to put them through.
I'm
You're looking
talking-
for something different.
I'm looking for the whole package. You're going to hire Sam, you're going to put him through the training, you're going to outfit him, he's going to be ready, the whole package, covers benefits,
We haven't
what?
done that,
Huh?
though. We haven't done that.
I haven't got the full training and all that. Just to outfit them is gonna be between $5,000 and $6,000.
And then training is 2,000.
Yeah.
2,000, plus if they go to EMT class, that's another $2,000. So
That's what I
to
was
bring someone on, drive the trucks around, because they have to have 2 hours of driver training and everything. You know, you're looking at fuel costs, all that, so my guess would be $10,000 to bring on a new employee, unless we can hire someone that's trained from somewhere else.
You're off by a huge factor, because
Yeah, because they
you
got
don't
benefit.
hire them without being a firefighter already.
She was just asking if we did.
If you had someone who wanted to.
The big number's gonna be the fact that you're gonna have to employ them while they're not useful.
Right, so I don't know if you can hear Jonathan, but we don't hire per diem or regular firefighters for the town of Harpswell unless they are trained.
So,
But we may have to consider that at some point,
That
if
day
the
may
pool.
come. That's one of my points, is that day may come. You're blessed now that you don't have to, but the day may come that you'll have to.
Our minimum requirement right now is basic firefighter or firefighter one.
Okay?
So that's absolute basic. Basic firefighter is 100 hours now, Pete?
I think it's 80 plus, but firefighter two is more like 180.
Yeah.
is that the cost
210.
or the hours?
So to be a firefighter two, which is qualified to do hazmat responses, when they're burning building, all that stuff, that's around 210 hours to train them, so the 6-month program. But the basic firefighter class would be 80 to 100 hours. And on top of that basic training, we have to do our onboarding for the town, for our standard operating procedures and policies and all that.
But Mike, you don't get someone for just those hours. If you're going to take on board them, you're gonna have them, it's 6 months for that course.
Yeah.
So
They're being paid
you're
as,
gonna have to,
in addition to
Yeah.
having their training paid for.
for that period, while they're being trained. And then, in that period, they're not useful as firefighters.
So a question about the FRAP program. Someone can join that and not be firefighter one, is that correct?
Correct. That's
And then, is it the volunteer department that would help pay for that person's firefighter one training, or would it be the town under the FRAP
that
program?
department pays for that.
That department, so that happens now, that a volunteer can join without firefighter one at one of the departments,
Yeah, only in the
Okay.
FRAP program,
Okay.
if they're enrolled in the FRAP program.
only if they're in the FRAP, okay. Thank you.
Do they still have training at Region 10 for fire? They used to. No, he's shaking his head. They eliminated, not enough enrollment.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're in a business that not a lot of younger people want to go into.
Okay. Mackin?
No.
Jane.
This is about the FRAP program. Do you have a number of how many people have gone through it so far? And then how many have gone on to work in one or the other of the fire departments in Harpswell?
Our biggest success story, one of the gentlemen that's currently a per diem for the town of Harpswell, started in the FRAP program, went through firefighter two, went through his EMT class, and he's currently a professional firefighter in Brunswick. So that's our biggest success story. Right now, we're kind of training to be a volunteer in town, just to bring our numbers up.
Excuse me, so are they training to be a volunteer FRAP people as well, or? No.
Then-
You know,
So-
if you had, I don't know, how many people came through it? Let's say 15 or 10 or whatever that number is.
The
and
current
how
number is
many-
11 that's in
11
there
have
right
gone
now.
through.
The maximum they had was 13.
And of those that completed, in addition to the one person, have any others joined the firefighting crew in Harpswell?
Yes.
That's the number I'm
Yeah.
looking for. How many have joined?
Yeah, Mason, yeah, Josh from Cundy's Harbor. Not working out very well. Parker and Noah. But it still got them up to the training level. So all three departments have benefited from it. Yep,
So there's, I mean, that alone, that's 5 right there.
yep. I can get numbers from you, for you if you'd like.
Just a ballpark.
Okay.
My question's been answered.
Okay. Okay, we're good. Thank you, Mike, we're good.
Thank you.
Account 3350 ALS. Advanced life support.
So this is essentially a contract that the town has had for a number of years. Initially, it started with Midcoast Hospital. Now it's actually with Maine Health, which acquired Midcoast Hospital. You know, you can see that most of the cost is in the wages. We have 24/7 paramedic level service available in Harpswell. And we also pay some money for someone to be the director. This is all a contracted service, so we're paying this entity to provide, you know, the mandated vacation, overtime, holiday pay, some training, but most of them have worked for other municipalities or entities, so they typically are trained, and that's not necessarily a cost that's passed on to us. But there's workers' comp, social security, et cetera, healthcare benefits potentially. So we're looking at the total payroll cost being $388,000, some operating costs for a $421,000 contractual service. And, you know, I've essentially been told that it's not really a negotiable number, so to speak. It's a service, and, you know, it's a nonprofit entity providing a service, and there's not a lot of room to negotiate the cost.
Mackin,
I guess to have some perspective, what is the overlap with this service, with the EMT services that the fire departments are providing?
I would love for somebody, I don't know if Mike wants to take that,
Here comes
or,
Jonathan.
or who would like to? Oh, Jonathan, here we go.
I am happy to
Thank you.
take that one, because this is one of the most successful things that the town has done for its people. So the system that we have today is a combined system where we have a paramedic level, 7x24 staffed person who lives here with a fly car, and we have an ambulance crew that comes from the volunteer departments. And the two end up meeting at the site of the emergency and take care of the emergency and transport the person as needed. And it's, the volunteer system would not be able to provide 7x24 paramedic level coverage by itself. So this is a win-win-win, and it works wonderfully.
so if, let me just throw out a thought. Okay, so if I call for an ambulance, Harpswell Neck, they have EMTs there,
Yes, correct.
volunteer EMTs.
That's correct.
Would they come
Yes.
first if they were available?
Yes.
Or would it come from over here? Or they
Say-
both?
say-
Everybody-
every-
So I'm
Everybody,
both.
everybody, you call 911, and they page the system, right? All at the same time. So the order in which the various parts arrive is a geographic question. Because The fly car starts out with a huge advantage. The person is in the building, ready to go.
Oh, right.
They're driving something that's fairly nimble and fast, right? And the stations win when geography means they have to go a long way to get there, but we don't. So, for example, I use Cundy's Harbor as an example. The station's, fairly well down Cundy's Harbor Road. If the call is on West Cundy's Point, we have a chance. Okay? I mean, it doesn't make any difference. The system takes all these parts to work. So the answer to your question is, it's really a matter of the timing. In general, right, on the response time studies that have done, they're much faster.
That's great. I just
Yeah.
didn't
It's a
understand
great-
how the two
The drive show up.
Right.
We try, it's much better for the outcomes to do what it has, and an EMT,
Like vehicle that, so if,
If, yes,
so options when multiple, M1 as it's called, could come from out, and normally when there's a call, they send an urgent call anyway.
Jane?
Just to clarify, the paramedic and the EMT are differently trained, is that correct?
There are levels in the skill set
Exactly.
of people in the emergency medical field
And what they're able to do.
and what
too,
they're
right?
able to
Yeah.
do,
Exactly. Got it. Thank you.
and what equipment they're about to use. I'm not an EMT. I don't know if the chief wants to add anything to that.
No, I think, yeah. They're not the same. Right,
And you got something in between too.
right.
That-
Good question. Thank you.
Thank you. So
Thank you,
And-
Jonathan.
And
thank
I,
you.
this is me asking, can I ask this publicly?
Yeah.
Where are we on the extension of this?
Oh, so I think, good question. In April, it's the end of a 5-year term, I believe it, and so they had indicated they're ready for another 5-year term, if that's what the town wants. We're gonna have to enter into a new contract for another period of time, after
with Maine
April
Health.
30th. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, I assume that's what this request is covering. No, I'm wrong.
No, it is, but I
Okay.
think Jonathan's point, this contract ends at the end of April. So we would have to sign a new one effective May 1st, 2025. And we anticipate no problems with that.
So no change in the cost.
Well, this is the cost
this
here,
is-
right, yeah.
Right.
This is the proposed
Future,
cost,
okay.
yeah,
I see. Okay, that's
yeah.
important.
Thank you. I believe we are done with the fire departments. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you
And thank you so much
for what you do.
for all you're doing. And
Heroes.
The whole thing,
So committee,
getting new people.
we're going to move on to consensus items.
Okay.
Okay. And the first one, first one is account 1230 Cranberry Horn Cemetery.
Fine.
I have a question about that one. It's really great that they found somebody who will take this on. It's a big job, I'm sure, and they've got a lot to get straight in the next year, few years, and so forth. I'm concerned about, at this point, it feels like the town is paying for all the maintenance at that cemetery. And I'd like to see them do more fundraising, figure out how to raise some money on their own, whether it's selling plots or maintenance, from people who have relatives there, whatever. So I have a little concern about them saying, I just need another $1,000 to do another mowing. That's my concern. I don't know if other people feel the same way or not.
Oh, I agree with you. I think by next year, they should show that they don't need all the funding from us, that they've been able to do funding on their own.
Terry?
Helps you, when we walked out together and talked, because we tried to make that point that, you really need to get your feet underneath you, and not certain that it was really clear during the meeting. And so I did have a conversation with her and said, I think it would be good if I could tell the budget committee that they are, that you're looking forward to getting a sense of all of its needs and your different ways for fundraising, and that you'll take this next year to really get organized and get strong and be able to request less from the town. And so we had that conversation, and that's her goal. I don't know if you want me to, did you want to reduce this one, or do you want to give I'm not sure where you're going with that, Linda.
I'm trying to be middle of the road. If they need this money, they need the money. I am concerned that in addition to the $3,000 for taking care of veterans' graves, they're asking for $4,000 more for mowing, and no other cemetery is doing that. And I could be okay with going ahead with this now, but with the expectation that it will be less of a request next year.
I agree with that, but I also think that they really should look into a consolidation of the mowing and maybe use the same vendor, because obviously they're getting billed a lot more than the other cemeteries.
When we
Well, we
had.
don't have, they're all separate.
They are separate, but this committee has asked before, could there be a benefit of cost for the same vendor to do all the cemeteries? So when we sat down, losing track of time.
Few years.
2 years ago with
or
each of the
3.
cemeteries, that really was not going to work for them individually, Jane, because they have a long, I don't know about Cranberry Horn, but, because I thought she mentioned that they changed vendors, but the others have had a long-standing relationship where their mowing vendor has actually given them substantial
Discount.
in-kind services, and so they would lose that, and it would actually have a reverse effect and cost more. So that didn't appear to be an option.
Mackin.
For the record, I've been somewhat involved in helping Kim
Okay.
get organized, and I think we should recognize that she is just forming
Oh, absolutely.
at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
And it's all in the family, by the way, of cousins putting it all together.
Okay.
George
It sounds
Swallow-
very similar to another cemetery I know.
George Swallow's wife, Kim herself, and they've all been involved for a
Right.
long time. So my counsel is that just give them patience, but do exactly what Terry has suggested, and reinforce that we expect you to come back with a fundraising plan and hopefully some results
Right.
of next year. I think that would be fair.
Did she say it was $1,000 each time they mow? I think she said that. Okay.
It's like 1,200, I thought.
Or maybe it was 1,200.
I thought it was 1,200.
It was significant, I don't remember.
Okay.
I remember that they were mowing more frequently than one of the others. cemeteries. But you don't
You
know.
can't compare them.
Yeah.
The other one that I'm aware of is very dry ground. Grass doesn't grow. So,
I'm with Mac, but I saw the condition of what Cranberry Horn looked like this year, and it drove me crazy. Asked Christie, I kept texting her and saying, listen, I think that's fair on our part to ask them to try to raise money to help offset this, But I think this year, I think if we want these people to do it and to improve it, I think we need to support them. Because they've stepped to the plate when no one else has, and it's been going downhill since I've sat on this budget committee. So I'm willing to support them 100% this year.
But I want to reiterate that
I understand.
the folks who are associated with that cemetery, also, besides the family that you're talking about, need to step up also. And they somehow reach out to them if they can.
I think that's the idea, we
Right.
need to communicate.
Right. Right. Okay, so I have said my piece, and we will go ahead and approve that, I think, with that understanding. Okay. Special projects, and hadn't we done this one before, except for the two, or?
Except Cranberry.
You haven't
We didn't
done-
do anything?
You haven't done solar consultant, which
We-
staff is recommending that come from Spira.
So that's
So
taken
that would
off.
be taken off here,
If you agree with
if you agree with that.
And that is, well, we left you last week with you saying you would discuss that, and
And
that's.
so
the
that's our
recommendation.
recommendation, is to
Okay.
take it from Spira. You have done marine hazards, but you just heard further details about the $108,000
The
for the
assessing.
callbacks and the personal property, so that one needs to be discussed.
The business properties, yeah.
Mhm.
So, everybody clear on that? We're basically talking about the additional money for assessing businesses and callbacks, which I expect there's going to be a lot of nature of our town. I'm good with that.
Good.
All right. And the account 2,000, which is the recycling center and the transfer station.
I'm good with that.
I'm good.
We're good.
We're good. Road maintenance,
I'm good.
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 Winter road maintenance, we're good.
Good.
Yep.
Marge is very good.
We'll use it tonight.
Or is it tomorrow? Whatever.
Sometime soon.
Sometime soon it'll be used. Debt service. Okay,
Good.
okay. Thank you. And capital reserves,
Okay.
good. Mitchell Field operations. Okay. Okay. I think we're good. So moving on to item 5, you received minutes in your email.
Did we discuss the solar consultant? Is that?
The solar, sorry. The solar consultant their town is proposing that it go with the resiliency, conservation, and resiliency and sustainability reserve.
Got it. That's about where it gets funded from.
Right, but do you want it being
If-
funded?
If it gets funded, I think.
At all?
it's,
If it gets.
Okay, so, no, we didn't discuss that.
I guess I don't have an issue, I don't have a big issue with funding it, but I got served a note of caution that with respect to the current contract, it doesn't perhaps operate the way we want it to, and information is very difficult to come by. So part of the need to hire a consultant is to sort out what we've already done to ourselves.
Yep.
Which I think is the first priority, right? Let's find out what we're doing, what it costs us, how and why, and whether this program that we're engaged in now is structured the right way. Having sorted that out, you have something to compare the sky to, right? Whether it's canopied garages in the back here, whether it's, we're gonna spend extra money to reinforce the roof, or we're gonna put big cement pylons on the old dump so that we don't penetrate the membrane there. And there's a lot of stuff here. So I would, if the committee is inclined to go forward with this, I would really like and urge the town to make sure that the level of specificity that is brought to what otherwise could be an extremely messy and a messy hydra is done, and not just passed off to a consultant to give us answers.
Right.
And I think to some extent, the way, at least the way the note to us was worded, the sorting out of what the town was doing now was at the very end, which implied to me that it was a bit of an afterthought. I mean, it's always fun, and it's always fun to look at new stuff, right? It's always fun, I mean, and solar is a fun thing. But you can go along, we can spend a lot of money on consultants, and sometimes it's necessary, but the quality of the product that comes out the end is only as good as the level of management, time and energy and expertise internally that is spent on that project. And I think no more so than a project like this, where there are a lot of moving pieces. So I just wanted to say that piece, because I've spent the week thinking about this, and spent some time with Terry, which she was gracious enough to get me to maybe understand a little bit more of the background. And I'm just worried, again, it's $12,000 in a millions and millions of dollar budget, so I don't want to belabor this, but I don't want us to go around and spend that and not be fully confident that we get a end product that is useful with respect to making a decision, not like another round and another round and another round. I'm not sure there's a decision to be made, but there's some analysis clearly to be done.
Art, did you want to say something?
To me, it's like two separate things. Find out what we have, what we currently have, and my understanding of the solar projection is to find out something separate, and is it going to be more beneficial to the town than what we currently have, but we don't really know what we currently have. So is it two separate things?
I heard in our conversations from the chairs that he wants to know, the Energy and Technology Committee wants to know, what are the best alternative energy plans for the town to participate in? Is it to continue in this current plan? So we don't see it as two separate things, because is it best to continue in this current plan plus some solar on the roof out here in the parking lot, or no plus? Is it get rid of this current plan and invest in solar panels? And is it solar panels just on the roof next door plus on a landfill? What are all the options? They've asked for some help because they are not expertise to determine, they don't have the expertise to determine what is the best plan for the town.
And is there an administrator who is overseeing what that committee does? Am I looking at her?
There's a staff liaison, which is the town planner.
And does he have expertise in that area at all?
No one on the staff really
Has
has
that
the expertise, which is why we really need somebody to come in
We
and
need
help
some
us
help.
evaluate and analyze the situation. But there is a staff person assigned to work with the committee. That person doesn't necessarily have solar expertise,
Okay.
nor do I. Or I
Right.
don't know if Terry considers that she
Right,
does either.
right. We'll send you to training
But
in your free time.
But I think what happens is we feel like we're often in a reactive situation. You know, revision comes to us and says, we want to put the solar farm at Mitchell Field, and, you know, it's just, and we don't have enough information to really do a great job evaluating that in relation to other ideas for how the town might be more of a leader in this area. Do we want to be a leader? What are we willing to do? What is it going to cost? How does it compare to what we're currently doing with these credits? How well is that working? So, you know, think, wow, we can get this all done for $12,000. It's a lot of review. But if you're somebody in the field, you have the skill set to do something like that.
Mackin?
I certainly agree with David's comments. I've had a lot of
Speak
experience.
into the microphone.
I've had a lot of experience with consultants, and defining their job ahead of time as specifically as you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
pays huge dividends.
Yeah.
And have a discussion with them as you spec out what we expect. Number two, what I heard last week was that we really understand the problem with the current solar provider, the credits. We used somebody booked it to the wrong account at some time. Did I understand correctly?
No, so
And you're not, and therefore you're not getting the benefit which you were sold.
may I make a suggestion? Would you like to continue discussing this one next week, since you have a small agenda and we really need to vacate the room?
Oh,
Sure.
And so I'm happy to respond to that, but we literally are on such a tight timeline.
Let's defer till next week.
Thank
Right.
you, thank you.
right. Okay,
Could you do minutes quickly?
okay. All right, so, okay, all right, so we're going to talk about the solar consultant next week. We have minutes in front of you. We had a motion, I believe, and a second.
Right.
Is it approved by the committee? All right, that is approved. Did the town administrator have anything to add to our matters?
No. What time are we planning to meet next week?
It's not, you literally, there's going to be a couple changes that staff is coming back to you for, but if you're then ready, you'll discuss solar, those few changes, and make your recommendation. I don't see it as an extensive meeting, so.
The only thing I personally was thinking, I was going to send you an email, I would love to see the overall.
I'm going to bring
gonna
all
do.
that for you.
Because we have made changes.
You're going to get an email with all of that and a list of the suggested changes for you to think about in advance.
Okay, and I know it doesn't matter, well, we're not restrained by LD1 anymore. I'd still like to see where we land in that area. I'm so used to looking at LD1, and it's way too early to understand what the select board might want to do with our tax rate based on the agenda.
You can make any recommendations you might want to make, if you want to tie it to a percent.
Or something
know,
like that.
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, again, it's going to be a recommendation because
Right,
until you get
right.
to
The
that
select
point,
board is
it's-
going to decide.
We have to check with the state if they are doing the growth factor.
Yeah, I mean, we can give you, you can use last year's if you want. If you need this kind of arbitrary kind of,
I like to know how
Percent.
this is going to affect the average person, all our,
I know, but we have to make a lot of assumptions. We have to make assumptions about the school budget, and that's always a biggie. So
Yeah.
we can put a number in there, and we can be close, we can be off. The select board always gets to determine the amount of overlay, so sometimes we can, if we've made a bad estimate with the school, we can reduce the overlay. So we can put something together based on a number,
and
that,
have you talked to the school district?
no, because we
I know
really-
they don't start their
They
budget.
invite us to their first preparatory meeting. I think they're trying to do something earlier this year compared to prior years. But it really is a separate budget process.
I understand, but
so-
it's nice to know they're talking about
Yeah.
a 10% increase, a 15%
They
increase.
don't ever give us a percent.
I know.
advance.
Well, we're looking at a tough year or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
We're happy to pull, if each committee member wants to consider how they would like to see it tied to something, but we'll also bring a few things for you next Monday. How's that?
That sounds,
That may not be all the other items will be in advance. The consideration items may be at the meeting.
okay.
Terry, in the absence of LD1, have you thought just longer term about a benchmark that you can use that provides maybe some guidance with respect to not only rate, but rate of increase in the overall budget?
Well, there's some
Just a
sheets
benchmark, again, not a.
Yeah, there's some sheets I already have prepared that show the municipal tax budget increase on the tax rate over a number of years, so you can see a pattern that way. We discussed going back and doing a curve as well for the LD1 to see how that raised and how it compared to that each year. The select board tended to, speak about tying it to the tax rate, and so that's why I had gone with that information. But, and I think Select Person Covey was about to say something. No, okay. And then we put out questions to the listserv, and there's not, most municipalities cheered at the end of this LD1 because it is, you have to understand, it is an arbitrary number because you can increase your revenues, you can, I don't want to say the word play, but you can,
Adjust.
You can use more
Adjust.
fund
There we
balance.
go.
you can use more fund balance, and so it's just been something that you've had to calculate, but, we can go back and increase the revenues at the end of the year, and so to us, it's not been this, I think it may have meant more to the budget committee, but it's, I think that's why they've decided to do away with that, and so you don't see a lot on the listservs about coming up with other things other than being responsible to your taxpayers.
That's important.
But,
Absolutely.
But-
And your staff here and this committee and the select board is
Right.
absolutely responsible to their taxpayers.
right,
But what I might suggest is that when you do know the school budget, which is later, and the other things that are all in flux now, that we do this calculation. And
We,
it just-
we'll prepare one
We
for
can
your
do
next
one now.
meeting.
No, but
I always
it's
feel.
so tentative and based on the.
Well, I feel badly that I am making an assumption about the school budget and putting it out there before the district has even started the process. I don't particularly like to do that.
I agree.
I will reach out to them, I will ask them if they have a percent, and I can use that,
course they
but
don't.
it's so early, they
It's
don't
very
really
early for them,
start
yeah.
for a while, and then, my number is just, an educated guess, and
I think
so
it's a bit of a
I
waste
just,
of time, this moment.
yeah.
Too many things are
it
unknown.
is a little early to make some of those.
I mean, we know the
Assumptions,
county,
but-
we know what we're going with for municipal, short of some payroll adjustments, but
The school is
we
a
could
biggie.
carry the school at the same number for you
they
to see,
might be,
They're
they're probably starting before.
I know, but
Yeah.
they
They will not
don't,
They-
release
Linda,
anything.
you were a former chair, like, it was hard to get those numbers from the district. We got them when they were ready to give them to us.
Of course.
And they wanted to present them publicly. They didn't want the
Right,
towns
yes.
out there.
Although I do remember them coming once or twice to our meeting,
Yeah.
talking to us. But
Yeah, so,
sometimes they know if, well, their biggest expense, of course, is payroll. And
yeah, I totally get that.
they might know because of contracts.
Whether they're ready to release that
Right.
yet, I don't know,
Right.
but I'll look into it.
Thank you all. We're going to be adjourned. Thank you all.
All right.
So next week, 3 o'clock, sorry. To resolve that, 3 o'clock.